Hello everyone, it is Liam, the Deaf Doom Metalhead, and I'm doing my end of year list. I've decided to do a top 30 for 2021. I brought well over at least 150 new albums this year, EPs, demos, you name it. And it's been insane, and I've left it so long to do this video now. We're now in January. But I thought I want to make sure my list is bulletproof, and I was trying to hold out for all of the releases to show you physically. But the postman done me over this morning. I was convinced I was getting one of them, but it hasn't showed up. So by probably tomorrow it will show up, and I could have waited another day, but it doesn't matter. So out of the 30, there's one I have to do like a screen dump for, which it doesn't really matter. So I hope everyone's had a good Christmas and a new year. Obviously 2022 should bring some exciting new music. For me, I'm going to do a different approach and not focus so heavily on new music, but I'll go into that on a different video. So for this video, this is my top 30 of the year. So starting off at number 30 is a Italian death metal duo. Insane little album that kind of didn't really have anything spectacular behind it. It was just a no frills death metal album that I've been cranking out in the gym throughout the year, and that is the new Becerus album with Homoni Brutus. This was battled through Everlasting Spew, and the novelty of this album is it's pretty much caveman death metal, and there is literally apparently no vocals whatsoever. So there's grunts, there's noises, but apparently there are no vocals. But I seem to think there might be somewhere. I can't imagine it just him making it up on the fly. Tape looks like that. I believe you can also get it in CD version through them. And yeah, a fun little album, you know, not too serious at all. The production's really crisp, solos are very technical, you know, very chunky. And yeah, love this. This is a great one to work out to. And yeah, a lot of fun. So that's number 30. Number 29 is a Scottish death metal band, a one-man project I believe with help from a few other people. And this is Chestcrush. I won't even try and pronounce the name of the album, but it'll appear down here. Now, this made my top 30 for two reasons. One, it's obviously very good and very enjoyable, and I've revisited a lot. And the second reason was it sounds totally different to other death metal albums that you'll see in this list. So it's got much more blackened edge to it. This, I think Evan is the main guy behind it. It's just got a real thick tone to it. It sounds raw, it sounds nasty. It's not strictly old school death metal sounding. Like I say, it's got that black metal edge. There's a bit of noise kind of going in there. And yeah, really cool album. And you know, nice little slip case as well goes with the tape. So yeah, number 29. 28 is a Polish black metal band that you may have heard of, may have not. This, I think this is their third or fourth release, I'm not too sure. They're a duo, but the drums are programmed. So the band is called, if I get this right, Misanthur. And I can't pronounce the name of the album, but it'll come down there. I love this. This is really unique kind of black metal. It's got a doomy edge to it. My friend Kenny got me into this, and it's doomy, blackened, raw, and then it goes a bit gothic, and then it'll pick up again, and there'll be loads of blast beats like you would expect from a black metal album. Then it changes again, and it gets a bit more shoegazy. It's got kind of all different elements of modern day black metal, should we say. It's got the programmed drums, but you really wouldn't notice on this album. Fourth track has a female vocalist on it, and that's probably the doomiest track on this album, and that's the one I love the most. It's very mellow, very chilled out, and then when you flip it over to the next side, it's double LP, and then it goes really blasty, and then there's a bit of death metal kind of growls towards the latter part of the album. Yeah, really cool release. This was powered through Seasons of Mist, so you know it's going to be good. So if you haven't checked this band out, I'll obviously leave links to everything I talk about below today, but well worth checking out if you haven't heard that one, because I've not seen anyone talk about this album yet. Really cool band. So that's number 28. 27 is an album, another one-man project. This time in the vein of Morbid Angel, if Morbid Angel could do a really good death metal album. So this guy here does everything on this album. And if you're a fan of Domination, and that's your favourite Morbid Angel album like me, you'll absolutely love this album. This is Alchemy of Flesh with Ageless Abominations. This was put out for Redefining Darkness, and it is amazing. The only thing this lacks is Trey Azaroff solos. You know, it's got no guitar solos, none of the wankery stuff. But this does Morbid Angel better than Morbid Angel at the moment, and the guy sounds like Dave Vincent. The guitar tone is reminiscent of Domination. The artwork is done by Browning, obviously the original Morbid Angel drummer. So that's really cool. And when you look at the insert there, he's even wearing a Domination shirt and using an Ibanez. I think it's the Gem series or Universe series, I can't remember, which Trey obviously used on that album. So, weird coincidence, but when you read the lyrics and what they're inspired by, it's inspired by Skyrim or Oblivion, I can't remember which one, Star Wars, Hellraiser, Doom, Quake, you know, so it's all over the place. And I know the guy does Dungeon Synth projects as well. But yeah, really, really cool album. This is amazing. So if you haven't checked this out, really, really strongly recommend it because it is a load of fun. And like I say, if you're a big fan of Morbid Angel, this will tick all those boxes. And that was number 27. So number 26 is a Hungarian Death Doom band. I have their, I think it was an EP from a couple of years ago or a demo, I can't remember what it was. This is their debut full length. Can't pronounce the album title at all on this one. This is Rothadás. This came out through Misako Huno here in the UK. And what you get here is 5 tracks of slow, crushing, really raw, nasty Death Doom. Album cover is amazing, but the light in here probably won't give it justice. But yeah, these guys do Death Doom, you know, very chunky, very thick riffing, guttural vocal, you know, you name it. If you like Death Doom like I do, you're going to like this album. So yeah, really solid album, and that is number 26. Really, really cool. Number 25 is an album that surprised me a lot. This is a Finnish band, I believe it's a 3-piece. And this is their second full length, and that is Galvanizer with Prying Sight of Imperception. I'm using notes over there because there's so much to take in. Now I wish I kind of got this on vinyl, but I picked up on tape because I wasn't sure what I was going to get. It was a blind buy, and it's really, really good grindy death metal in the Finnish style. So it's really guttural, really fast, very heavy, very chunky. Production's amazing, and you get that kind of Downfall. If you like Terrorizer, that feel, it's got that album feel to it all over this album. Solos a lot, you know, it's perfect. So if you like your grindy death metal like I do as well, go check out some Galvanizer. Very, very strong album. Next is another one that surprised me. This was a blind buy. This came all the way from Canada. One-man project again. This is Daniel's other project. He's also in Fumes, amongst a shitload of other bands, but this is Intestinal Hex, probably butchered the name of that, and the album is called The Exalted Chambers of Abhorrence. This was put out through Stump Grinder Records, and yeah, brilliant, brilliant death metal from Daniel. I mean, he's got the perfect guitar tone for me. It's really thick, very heavy, again Morbid Angel-esque in the style on this album. It's very short though, it's only like half an hour long if that. And you could say maybe it's an EP, some people would say, but to me, I'm going to call it a full length. It's got 8 tracks, so that's album worthy to me. It's brilliant, really heavy, the solos are spot on, the chunkiness of it, the tones, it's just everything, guttural vocals a lot, so really, really cool album. So that is number 24. 23 is an album that I thought would have been higher in this list, but the more I listen to it, I think it fits in with the other albums. It's been such a strong year for other albums. This is Dream Unending with Tide Turns Eternal. This is about through 20 Buck Spin. Now, the cool thing about this band is a 2-piece, and they've featured members from Tomb Mold, Outer Heaven, and Innumerable Forms, which I have all back there. I love all those bands. So I knew it was going to be good. The guy from Tomb Mold is also the guitar player, so the soloing on here is spot on. What separates this Death Doom album though is it's more atmospheric, but not in the riffing, it's more in how the tones are set. So there's a lot of clean chord picking notes throughout this whole album, like little acoustic intros and interludes and that kind of thing, and it sets you into this kind of dreamy landscape, and then it will pummel you with a really heavy tone. Very good guttural vocals from the guy from Innumerable Forms, and yeah, a very good listen, very chilled out album. I think it clocks in at over 40 odd minutes if I remember rightly, and yeah, it takes you on a journey, but it's not a Death Doom album that picks up and really pummels you and it's really heavy. This is more of a kind of dreamscapey kind of style, and I really like it a lot. But it's one I have to be in the mood for, and like today it's been really shit outside on the weather, so it's kind of fitted the mood for me to listen to this today. So yeah, Dream Unending, really cool album. Number 22 is an Australian death metal band. This was gifted to me and I've been listening to this absolutely loads. It's a really cool album, and that is Crypt Crawler with Future Usurper. This was put out through Bitter Lost Records. And if you're a fan of death and you like a kind of thrashy approach to death metal, these guys will be right up your street. A lot of the riffs on here are very similar to death, and you can tell they're massively inspired by death. But it has its own edge to it. It gets a bit thrashy in some parts. It's very Aussie kind of death metal, so it's very raw, very aggressive as well. Brilliant artwork. Picture of the band inside there. You can see the chaps there. But yeah, I don't know if it's their debut or not. I can't remember. I think it is, but I might be dead wrong. But really, really cool artwork to start with. But yeah, musically, if you like death, you know, you're going to absolutely love this album. It's really, really good. Solos, the riffing, everything is spot on. Production is brilliant. And yeah, really, really cool album. So that is number 22. 21 is a black metal album from Germany. Germany, see, I think I've got well over 15 albums this year from German bands. The German scene is absolutely amazing at the moment, and these guys are no exception. This is Thron, the album Pilgrim. This was put out through Listenable Records. Now these guys sound a lot like Necrophobic, a lot. The Swedish band, if I remember rightly. And these guys musically are brilliant, all brilliant musicians. Songs are fast, they're aggressive, they're melodic. You know, it's that kind of black metal where it kind of catches you in with the riffs, keeps you with the atmosphere, and then it kind of just pummels you to death. And then there's like chilled out bits, drawn out bit. You know, it's such a great album. I really enjoyed this. I would show you the insides of the gatefold, but it's near enough impossible to see. But there you go. But yeah, brilliant album. Really, really enjoyed this. So that's Thron, and that was at number 21. 20. So number 20 is now, I might surprise a few people because I've seen this, I've watched a few people's lists now, and this was a lot higher for a lot of people, but for me it's brilliant, I love it, but it's not something that's challenged me musically, and that is Frozen Soul with Crypt of Ice. This was put out through Century Media right at the start of the year, and this has made loads of waves, and it is a brilliant album, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this, and this is why it's at number 20 and not any higher. Because it is very much reminiscent of Bolt Thrower. There's no denying the inspiration behind the album, the riffing, the tone, everything screams Bolt Thrower. I mean, yeah, you could say they even have a female bass player, but I think it's just coincidence more than anything else. But the riffs are solid. I mean, I love this. I can jam this all day quite happily. It's very catchy, very heavy. I mean, the artwork just screams by me. They're a really good live band. If you go and check them out on YouTube, they're fucking solid. But musically it doesn't push any boundaries, it's just kind of paying respects to the bands I love and just doing it really well, and that's what these guys do for me. They're just a solid modern day death metal band, just keeping the torch alive. So yeah, Frozen Soul at number 20, really good album. Okay, number 19 is one I thought might be higher, but as the year has gone on it hasn't really gone to the point where it's like this is a standout album of the year for me. It wasn't when I first heard it, and I thought it might progress more, but it's kind of just sat where it is, and that is the Ruins of Beverast with A Few Grimoires. So on this album from them, there's a blackened kind of doomy album, very heavy on the gothic influence on this release as well. They kind of borrowed from Typo Negative a little bit in the vocal style, which I like, and then there's a more of a guttural approach on some of the tracks, and then there's obviously the blackened kind of screams as well. And the style of music as well, the drums change all the time, and there's some really unique riffs that you can hum along to, and it keeps you guessing. It's not a predictable black metal album where every drum beat is the same black metal style, you know, it varies a lot, the riffs vary a lot, and he changes his vocals a lot as well between them, so it keeps it really interesting. But some of the songs are a bit flat, it doesn't really go anywhere in some parts, and it doesn't really build on the energy they create on some of the tracks. But I still enjoy listening to it. You have to be in a shitty mood to listen to it as well. It's one of those ones like today where the weather's been crap. It fits the mood perfectly. If you put it on when it's like a nice day, it just doesn't work at all. Kind of distracts you from what you're doing and you can't really give it much attention. But a really, really cool album. I really enjoyed this. So that's The Ruins of Beverast at number 19. Number 18 is an album that surprised me. This was one I checked out online, and the more I checked it out, the more I got into it, and then I found out it was an all-female death metal band, and it really surprised me even more, and that is Crypta with Echoes of the Soul. This was put out through Napalm Records. Now this features members who were in Nervosa and Burning Witches by memory, and they've created this death metal album that's technical, thrashy, upbeat, but also really memorable riffs. The guitar solos are fucking fantastic. Production's really good on the guitar work as well, and the drums are really clear, really punchy. Vocals, she's got a bit of a kind of black metal kind of style to it, so that keeps it different as well. And these girls can go. I mean, they fucking shred the shit out of this album, and it's just really catchy, really good choruses. You know, you can remember all of it really, really well. And for a debut album from a band, I believe that some of them live on the other side of the world as well. I think that one of the guitarists, Sonia, lives in Spain or the Netherlands. I can't really remember. But yeah, a fantastic album. Really, really enjoyed this. Cover's alright, it's a bit naff, but the music is spot on. So yeah, number 18. Number 17 is another German doom band. This is probably one of the most surprising albums of the year for me. This was recommended to me by Chris Rankin, if you know him. And the cover did nothing for me, and then I listened to the music and it's just stayed with me for the rest of the year. And that is Wheel, Preserved in Time. This was put out through Cruz del Sur Records. Fucking amazing epic doom. So the songs on here are all epic in their way they're produced, the story behind the lyrics, the riffs, how they create the atmosphere. Everything is perfect on this album. It's just such a strong album. Completely misleading cover for me though. I mean, that did nothing for me, but you know, the music does all the talking when you listen to it, and it is dead right. You know, it's just such a strong album, melodic, really catchy. The more you listen to it, the more you pick out other parts you missed. And I've just really, really enjoyed this. This has been one I've kind of gone back to now and again throughout the year. And yeah, absolutely love it. So that's Wheel. Chuck that over there. Alright, number 16 is some UK death metal from some old schoolers. And that is Memoriam with To The End. This was put out through Reaper Entertainment. I've got my beat to shit copy that they shipped to me. And it's split all over the place, but we won't moan about that. So, Dan Seagrave artwork. Always a winner for me. This is their 4th album from this band. This is essentially a band that rely on the guitar players to do all the work. I forget his name, but there he is there. And then Carl with his vocals. But what separates this album is the drums on this album. This album has a different drummer. They've got rid of Andy from Bolt Thrower fame. You know, he did Bolt, you know, 4th Crusade a lot. But on this one, they got a new guy in, and he adds so much more dynamics to the riff. You know, there's more blasty bits, there's tempo changes and different mixtures of styles, and it really creates a really memorable album, and the songs are more interesting musically. They don't just plod along like a Bolt Thrower album would do. They kind of mix it up a bit. It's got a bit of a punky vibe to it. And yeah, I absolutely love this band. I mean, they can do no wrong for me, really. I mean, I'm a loyal fan of Memoriam. But this album really changed my opinion on the music, because you kind of expect to hear something, and when you hear Carl's vocals you obviously think of Bolt Thrower because it's just imprinted in your brain. But this has a bit more going on to it than just what you'd expect from a Bolt Thrower album. So if you've not tried this at all and you just assume it's going to sound like Bolt Thrower, you'd be wrong. This has got a lot more going on, so give it a go. So that's Memoriam. Love that. Right, number 15 is the album I can't show you, and that is Malignant Altar. That should pop up around here. This is the album Realms of Exquisite Morbidity. I think it came out through... I can't even tell you what it came out through because I didn't write it down, but who cares, it'll be down there. So, I love this band. I completely missed out on the EP they put out a little while ago, and if you look on Discogs now, the price it goes for is absolutely insane. And I've kind of just resigned to the fact I'll never own that. You know, I love it, and I discovered it, you know, through Spotify, I think, ages ago when it came out. And I never bought it because I wasn't collecting then, and I regret it to this day, and I've missed all the represses, and yeah. Anyway, so the new album is on its way. I was hoping it'd be here today, but it should probably turn up tomorrow. It has been shipped, and it's just exquisite death metal, but it's doomy as well. But what separates it from all the others is the drums. The drummer on this album is fucking phenomenal. I believe he also plays in Oceans of Slumber, if you know that band, a kind of progressive doom band. They do a bit of everything. But his drumming is fantastic. He could literally be in any kind of extreme metal band and make them great. His blasts, his rolls, his little pings he does on it, and the kicks in different tempos, everything he does on this album just creates these different textures to the songs, because the riffs, I won't deny, aren't amazingly standout riffs. They're very heavy, very aggressive, but they're nothing, you know, technical. They're nothing that would stand out from any other death metal band, really. I mean, it's fucking cool, don't get me wrong, I like it, but the drums add so much to the riffs, and that's really important in a death metal band. If you have a band where your drummer can kind of create something out of nothing with a certain technique or a certain blast, it creates your ears like focusing on different points of it, and he's like a fucking octopus. There's so much going on, and it really made it really enjoyable for me. It just absolutely punishes you. So that was number 15, and I can't wait to get it in my hands so I can listen to it in the car and everywhere else. Number 14 is some Danish death metal, but not in the way that every other Danish death metal band sounds, and this is why this album stood out so much to me. This is, well, it's technically it's Beast, but it's spelt differently. And the album is called Necrosapiens. This was put out through Century Media. I got this quite early in the year by memory. And this is brilliant. I really like this album. I jammed this a lot. I mean, the cover is fantastic, but the riffs on here, everything about this album distances itself from other Danish death metal bands, because you expect Undergang, Sulphurous, you know, there's so many cool Danish death metal bands, but they all sound the same to some point. These guys don't. Very different. Technical, catchy, melodic in some parts. The vocals, you can hear the growls, you can hear the words, so you can sing along to the songs. The choruses are created really carefully, so you can, you know, they're kind of like pop songs in a way. You remember them, especially like, you know, Necrosapiens. I remember that song just by reading that word, and then the riffs come in my head straight away. So you haven't checked this one out, very catchy and well worth your time. Alright, number 13 is Dutch Death Doom legends Asphyx. This is Necroceros. This is put out again through Century Media. Right at the start of the year, Neil's going to love it. I'm a massive Asphyx fan, as you could probably guess. Being the Death Doom metalhead, I'm going to like Asphyx, and I always have since I first heard them years ago. This, I forget how many number of albums it is now, but this is probably the 5th or 6th one with the current lineup as it is, especially with the guitar wise anyway, and bass. But yeah, this is brilliant. Very much more of a structured Asphyx album. It has a bit more go to it, a bit more of a point to it. The songs are written in a way where the album flows really nicely. There's no stop gaps. There's no awkward song where you kind of want to skip it, but you listen to it anyway. Every song flows really nicely, and it's just a fucking good album. I mean, I love Asphyx, and you know, the guitar tone that Paul has and everything about Martin Van Drunen is great. You know, there's nothing I can't not like about Asphyx. But I will say it sounds like every other Asphyx album, apart from the structure's a bit more catchy and it flows a bit better. You know, they haven't really drastically changed anything, but why would they when it works so well? So yeah, Asphyx at number 13. No, number 12 I thought would be higher and nearly made my top 10, but the more I've listened to it and then other albums came along and kind of pushed it back and back. This is Grief Collector with Delirium. This was put out through Petrichor Records and is the band of a featuring Robert Lowe on vocals, but it's run by another guy who's the drummer, but I forget his name, which is really bad, so I do apologise. But yeah, Grief Collector essentially are, if you know Robert Lowe, you know he's in Candlemas, Solitude Eternus, Tyrant now as well. It's got that epic doomy kind of feel to it, and he was on the album Hereafter last year from Tyrant, and that was my number 1 album last year. This one is good, but it's just that Tyrant album just had such an atmosphere to it that I absolutely love. But this, it still has that kind of Sabbathy kind of vibe to it, very much in the vein of Mob Rules, that kind of style of Sabbath. It's a bit ploddy, but you know, I really enjoyed it. I'm a massive Rob Lowe fan as well, so anything he puts his vocals to, I become an instant fan of. And you know, I've really enjoyed this. Not too keen on the Dio covers. I didn't think those songs worked for what they were trying to do. I think they should have picked some heavier Dio songs. But this album, you know, I've spun this a lot. I can remember all the songs on here, like all the choruses, because Robert Lowe's vocals are so good. They imprint in my brain all the time. When Something Eludes Me, Knee Deep in Devils, Misery Mongers, and that's probably my favourite one off this album. You know, a really, really cool album. So if you like your kind of Doom, you like your Dio, your Sabbath, Tony Martin era, or even Dio era Sabbath, this is well worth checking out because it's very much in that vein. So yeah, Grief Collector. Right, number 11, and then we'll be in our top 10. So my number 11 spot is Wolves in the Throne Room with their new album Primordial Arcana. This came out through Century Media. Now, I've been a Wolves in the Throne Room fan for a number of years, seen them live. I supported Behemoth many years ago when I saw Behemoth. I can't remember when that was now. And I was really lucky that they were supporting them because I really wanted to see them live. And they're just as good as live as they are on here. But this album is totally different to their previous work. It's still atmospheric black metal, but this one has a more of a, I mean, I know they're pro nature, and this album really kind of illustrates that even more. The atmospheres, the tones. I mean, the first time I listened to this, I used it to go to sleep, and I went out like a light. You know, it takes me normally quite a while to go to sleep because my brain's always like la 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 la. But this really helps, and I do that a lot. If the music can help me kind of soothe me and calm me down if I'm in a shit mood, that normally stays with me. And some of these albums, when you see them in the top 10, will be why. And this is no different. It's nearly crept into the top 10. It's a really, really cool album. There's some bits, there's even a moment where there's like a Tom G Warrior grunt, and I fucking loved that. That really set the tone. I think that was on the B side. But a really, really cool album. Really lush landscapes and the tones, and it just builds and it builds, and yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. So that's my number 11. Right, top 10. So at number 10 is the album that started the whole new wave of British death metal this year, and what an album it is. This is Celestial Sanctuary with Soul Diminished. This is essentially a one-man project with hired guns, and they've formed a band around Tom because he did all the writing for this album, I believe, during the first lockdown. And what you've got here is a death metal band from the UK, but it doesn't have a death metal old school sound. This to me has more of a crossover hardcore edge to it, like Crowbar a little bit, a bit of Bolt Thrower, hence the name Celestial Sanctuary. It's obviously a Bolt Thrower song, and Tom has kind of moulded that together and made it his own. The riffs are very chunky, very simple, but they've got bags of groove. I mean, my favourite song on here is either Wretched Habits or Yearn for the Rot. Those two songs are brilliant. The whole album's great though, and it's been very, very popular this year, and it's kind of spiked a massive interest in UK death metal, especially with the pandemic. There's been loads of bands just emerged and really cool albums, and I think this is the one that kind of helped start that surge, and people on the other side of the world are taking notice. This was put out for Redefining Darkness and Church Road Records here in the UK, and yeah, well worth your time. Very hard to get a copy of this, and I'm very fortunate I've seen these guys live. This is the only band I saw in 2021 live, with a few other UK death metal bands. And yeah, love Tom, did stream with him on YouTube, brilliant songwriter, fucking awesome album. Number 10. Number 9 is an album I didn't think I was gonna, well, I knew I was gonna like it, but I didn't think I'd be on the hype train that this band has created as much as, you know, it is. I picked up the album beforehand, and I knew it was a funeral doom album, black metal edges, and I thought, why is this band so popular? They're not doing anything too drastically different to Evoke and Disembowelment. And the band I talk about is Worm with the new album Foreverglade. This is put out through $20 Spin. Now, like I said, the previous album to this, I think it's called Gloomlord by memory, I can't really remember. I have back there on vinyl, but it was a funeral doom album with black metal kind of influences on it and tones. And I thought, that's crazy that they're so popular, because you don't hear people raving about Evoken or Disembowelment as much as what this is getting. And then when I listen to this, it's totally different to the previous album, to a point. It's still doomy, still Evoken-esque, Disembowelment, you know, it's got that vibe to it. Esoteric as well, I guess you could say. But it's got an old school death metal as the forefront of what's going on this album. It's very heavy, it's very thick. It's got that Trey Azaroff kind of guitar solos going on, which I fucking love. The guitar tones, it's got that horrible phasery, kind of chorusy kind of sounds, which I really love as well. I use it in my own music. And, you know, I think his name's Phantom Slaughter, I can't remember. But what he's done here is just brilliant. It's so heavy, and I know he's got people to help with the guest solos and stuff like that. It's just brilliant. I really like it. It's fucking awesome. And I can see why the hype is so real for this band, because it's just 90s old school sounding death metal. It's doomy, it's technical to a point, over the top, it's swamp, you know, it's everything I love in underground death metal. So number 9, Worm. Right, number 8 is a band from Mexico. This is, or was, a one-man project. There's a few more band members in it now, and this is the latest from Majestic Downfall with Iorta, which was put out through Personal Records, which is the label of the vocalist. Don't know if you can figure out the album cover or not, but yeah, band logo you can't read at all in that, I don't think. But I assure you, this is brilliant death doom metal, my kind of death doom as well. So it's very thick, very heavy, very My Dying Bride 90s-esque in the tones and the melodies. I mean, the first song's like nearly 20 minutes long, and the way it builds and the stages it goes through, there's no start-stop parts, nothing like that. It flows beautifully, and it's a very heavy album if you're patient with it. You know, it's not one of those ones you can flick on. Some of the tracks maybe, but certainly not the first track. You have to listen to that all in full because it's got the best riffs on it as well. And yeah, I fucking love this album. Such a cool album, and I like the one beforehand, but this one's a massive step up, and I think having another songwriter involved has really helped this band kind of progress and do bigger, better things. So yeah, my number 8, Majestic Downfall. Right, number 7 is some more Death Doom, obviously. I love Death Doom. Mortiferum with the album Preserved in Torment. This came out through Profound Law. This is their second full length. And yeah, so these guys are an American Death Doom band. Very thick and very heavy. As the album cover suggests, it's just fucking disgusting how heavy this album is. And you know, some people always whinge about how the EP was better and then they kind of went weaker. I think that's bollocks. I think this band have been consistent. I think they're heavier. I think this album's even heavier than the previous album. And it just kicks ass. As simply as that, you know. It's heavy, it's thick. It's what you want when you want some heavy, thick Death Doom. You know, these guys tick all the boxes. And I love to see them live just to kind of replicate this kind of style on stage. I could see it for myself because it's so fucking good. So my number 7, Mortiferum. Right, number 6 is another German band. And this was put out through Napalm Records as well. And if you're a black metal fan, you know, certain bands are your go-to starting points. Some people will say Mayhem, some will say, I don't know, Marduk, you know, it depends what they're in, Gorgoroth. You know, for me, Dissection is my favourite kind of style of black metal, or even Emperor. You know, melodic, fast. And the new one for Thulcandra, hopefully I pronounced that right. Can't even read it. A Dying Wish, is it? Yeah, I should have read it off there. So this is their latest, A Dying Wish. Now this is a German melodic black metal band that features members from Obscura, and I think also the bass player they've got on this album is from Nailed to Obscurity, which are a brilliant Death Doom band. And this album is fucking awesome. I love this album so much. It's so clinical, because obviously it's Obscura, so you know it's going to be. It's got all this nice plinky kind of acoustic guitar parts, and it just has everything going for it. The music stops, we'll play that again. And it's just got everything going for it. You know, it's acoustically strong, there's solos everywhere, but if they fit the songs really well. It's technical, it's fast, it's blasty. You know, I love Dissection, and the Somberland is probably my favourite Dissection album. And it has reminiscences of that song on this album. The tones and everything about it is the same. Put some music back on, I hate talking quietly. And yeah, like I say, if you've not checked this album out, it's fucking awesome. I absolutely love it. One of my favourite black metal albums this year. I've tried a few others and they could have easily made this list as well. But for me, when I first heard this, it's been constant. Absolutely constant. So yeah. Number 6. Right, top 5. And then we're out of here. So, for a long while this was my death metal album of the year. And I still listen to it now. I use it in the gym. You know, I put it on now and again when I'm in here. And that is Gosudar with Morbid Despotic Ritual. probably butchered that. These guys are from Russia. How many people know Russian death metal bands? 3-piece. This was put out through Rothadás Life, and I'm very grateful I got a copy of this when I did, because this has been very hard to find if you discover it late. This is phenomenal death metal. It has an old school production to it. It's not a modern sounding death metal band at all. It sounds like they've recorded it in a room but done it really well. Very clinical, it's very fast. It just goes, there's hidden grooves thrown in here, left, right and centre. The drumming is fantastic, vocal approach is brilliant, and it's just not a boring death metal album at all. There's no strawn out atmospheric bollocks, nothing like that. Every song is just ready to fucking kick your head in, essentially. And I love it, absolutely love it. It's such a good album, but there is a better album for me in the death metal world. So yeah, my number 5, Gosudar. Number 4 is an amazing album that completely blew me away. No idea what it was going to sound like, and I listened to it. I've been a big fan of this band for a number of years, and that is the latest from Funeral, called that, can't pronounce it, and this was put out through Seasons of Mist. So I love this vinyl. It's like a double vinyl with a really waxy kind of feel to it. It's amazing. So Funeral have been around since the early 90s. They're a Norwegian, they're a funeral doom band, I guess, in a way, but also a death doom band. They also recorded an album in I forget the name of the studio here in the UK that My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost used. So they're part of that style and sound, and over the years they've had albums with like operatic female vocals, monotone kind of low singing in a weird way. It kind of stands out, but I've loved every album. But this one, all the vocals are in Norwegian, so I haven't got a fucking clue what he's talking about, and I don't care. Musically it's brilliant, it sounds absolutely massive. They've gone for a more of a modern kind of, I want to say the word djent kind of sound, but it's not djenty at all like Meshuggah way. It's like the production and the guitar tone, everything is suited to more that style. They've got the 7 strings with the clinical cut distortion, you know, it's not fuzzy, it doesn't buzz or anything like that. It's very clean, very clinical. The drums sound fucking huge, the bass sounds fucking massive, you know. And then vocally, this is the first Funeral album to my knowledge that has the death metal growls in there as well as the singing. It has everything. It's such a grand album. If you stream it online, they also do a cover of Candlemaster's Samarathon from the Nightfall album, I think. So it's not on the LP, unfortunately, but it's just a fucking awesome project. And this band haven't recorded anything for years, so to come back with an album like this is amazing. So that is my number 4. A very, very cool album. Right, number 3 is a Finnish death doom band that you might have guessed would be on this list if you follow my channel, and that is Hooded Menace with a Tritonus bell. This is also put out through Seasons of Mist, and this features Hooded Menace doing more of a heavy metal approach. So I believe this album was inspired by bands like Eternal Champion. I remember them putting a post on saying that these albums inspired us. And you listen to this and it's got that vibe to it, and when you find out it was recorded and mixed by Andy LaRocque from King Diamond, it all makes sense. You'd even think he might have soloed on this album at one point. You can tell they've used his gear and his knowledge to kind of create these epic sounding solos and leads, and everything about this album is spot on for me. There's not a dull moment on it whatsoever. I mean, I love Hooded Menace. I only have one more album to get of theirs. I have everything else by them. And they've gone from really slow, morbid, horrible sounding death doom, and as each album progresses they change it only slightly, and on this one they've gone full to like 6th gear on this. It goes faster than they've ever gone before, and the solos are way more shreddy, way more technical, the melodies more upbeat, and yeah, it is a perfect blend of death doom with traditional heavy metal, which you think would never happen. But they've done it really, really well, and a lot of people I know have tried this go. Musically I love it, but I just don't like the vocals. And that's fair enough. If you don't like guttural vocals, you know, you can't get into it. But a lot of people, once you get past the whole "ooh, it's guttural vocals," will appreciate this even more. So a fucking fantastic album. That's my number 3, Hooded Menace. Right, number 2 is my death metal album of the year, and one that I've played fucking hundreds of times since it came out. I've used this on the gym constantly because it's the only one that makes me go about 100 miles an hour in my head on the treadmill, and it just gives me neck-ache every time I listen to it. And that is the latest from Blood Red Throne, Imperial Congregation. This was put out through Nuclear Blast, and this is hands down the best Blood Red Throne album they've ever done. I've seen these guys live a couple of times, and they are a brilliant groovy death metal band that, even though they're from Norway, you'd never know that. They don't play anything Norwegian kind of inspired sounding. I mean, there's a little bits of black metal, and Bolt's vocals, I think he's also been in black metal bands. He can do those high pitched black metal shrieks, but also really low guttural vocals, so you get really cool dynamics. But Dodd, the guitarist, the long-standing guitar player in this band, he's just written some fucking phenomenal riffs. The bass so technical, which they always have. I forget the drummer's name, but he's fucking on form on this. The breakdowns and the time changes and everything about it. You're doing this the whole time, and you're all over the place. It's really hard to run to this album actually without falling over. It's that it makes me headbang that much. An amazing album. And then the last track, they kind of changed it up, so they've got this whole groove laden death metal album, and then right at the last track they break it down and go a bit slower, put some doomy kind of vibes on it, some more atmosphere, and I really like that. It ends the album really well for me. But yeah, I love Blood Red Throne. They're an amazing live band, really fun, just a bunch of massive dudes that like to drink. What more do you want with your death metal bands? So yeah, go check this out if you haven't, because it's fucking phenomenal. That's my number 2. And my number 1 will surprise maybe a few people, I don't know. This album has been with me since I got it. It's obvious. I mean, since I've been listening to it since I've got it, and I use it to go to bed. The kids use it on their playlist when they go to sleep. When I go for a walk with the dog in the woods, I put this on. If I want to chill out after I've lost my temper with something, I'll put this on. It's really calmed me down this year a lot. And that is the latest from Empyrium with Uber Den Sternum, I think it is. Now this was put out through Prophecy Records, and is a 2-piece featuring Marcus Stock, who does most of the instruments, and the chap's name on the vocals is Thomas Helm. So Marcus does that kind of black metal kind of growls, and Thomas does this classical operatic kind of style of vocal, and they blend the two perfectly, and it's such a beautiful album. So if you're into your walks in nature and all that kind of thing, this is the perfect album for you, because it will take you somewhere and it will keep you there. It's amazing. There's all sorts of stringed instruments on it. It gets a bit heavy. I mean, you could say it's a metal album to a point. It's more of a black and folk album, and I love it. I absolutely love it. My boys love it as well. They've all enjoyed it. Not one person's moaned about it. Only the wife has complained because she's into a Slipknot and Avenged Sevenfold and all sorts of bollocks like that. She just doesn't get it. But if you can open your mind a little bit past those generic Kerrang bands, I'm going to call them, you've got so much going on in here. It's an amazing album. So if you haven't checked this out, I can't recommend this enough. This is my favourite album of 2021. And I'm interested to see this year what I find, because last year it was Tyrant's Hereafter, which is more of a traditional doomy kind of heavy metal album. This year is a black and folk album, so who knows what the fuck it's going to be this year in 2022. So that is my 30 albums for 2021. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment below what you think and what you feel about them. Obviously these are my picks, you know, there's so many albums I could have chosen from. Like I said, I got well over 150, and even then I still didn't get all the albums I wanted to get this year. There's fucking tons of new music that I've yet to pick up, and I may never do. You know, if you don't get it there and then, sometimes you miss the press. It's really hard to pick it up. So let me know what your picks are. I've enjoyed watching everyone else's, and it's been a fantastic year. 2021 has anyway. For music, we're now in 2022, so who cares? Let's move on, and hopefully the pandemic will fuck off and life can get back to normal. So until then, take care guys. Cheers.